Okay, so tell me, do you have any idea regarding promises? I hope you have gone through the last session's code. Now, just tell me, do you have any idea about promises? Have you learned about promises? Yes or no? Abhishek, do you know about promises? Promises in JavaScript. I'm talking about JavaScript. Okay, good. So, what we will do is today we will first start about fetching the data in React. Okay, have you fetched the data in JavaScript? Have you ever tried fetching data in JavaScript? If you have, which method do we use? Which method we use to fetch the data in JavaScript? Yes, we use the fetch method. Correct. Very good. So now what we will do is let us try to fetch the data in React. So before that, I would like to tell you one concept. So for that, I'll be making a new folder and let me name it as UseEffect. The folder name is UseEffect. Okay, and in this folder, let me make a component as UseEffect useEffectComp.jsx. Okay, so this is my new component. Let us make a component here. Okay, so the component is ready. Now, why I have brought you to this component is because let us see. Okay, let us see. I need to make a state here. So I will have to import which hook? Use state hook, correct? And then let us start making a state. Okay, so let me make the first state as count, comma, set count is equals to use state. Okay, and let me give the initial value to it as 0. Similarly, I'll be making one more state, that is for, suppose let us make it as number, comma, set number is equals to use state. And again, for this also I'm going to give the initial value as 0. Okay, so now what I will do is let me remove this part and want two buttons over here. Okay, I'm going to make two buttons. So let me make them and I will display count on the first button and number on the second button. On the number itself, sorry, on the button itself, we will be displaying the count and number respectively. Okay, so first let me give it a text as count, and for this count I want to display the value that is 0. So what I should pass here to display 0? What will I have to pass? I will have to pass the state variable that is count, correct? So just pass count over here so that 0 is getting displayed on this button. Similarly, for the next button, let me give a text as number. And for this number, I want to display the initial value that is 0. So just pass your state variable that is number. Now let us see whether it is working or not. So let us first comment these two things which we have studied in the last class. And now let us newly render the new component that is use effect comp and make sure it is imported. Okay, so done. Component is rendered. So let me run the code npm run dev, and if you see, Yes, I am getting the two buttons. One is for count and the second one is for number. So, what is my next requirement? As I click on the count button, the count should increase by 1. And as I click on the number button, the number should increase by 1. Every time I click, every time it should increase by 1. So, if I want to make a change in count, what we should use? What do we have to use if we want to make a change in count? What to use if I want to make a change in count? I want to update the value of count. So, what to use? We have to use the updater function, correct? I've already taught you about states. If you want to update the value of the state variable, you should use the updater function, that is set count. So then what to do? On click I want to increase, right? So just give on click event here, and to this on click event either you can make a function outside or here itself also you can do it. I have shown you in both the ways when we studied about states. So for now, since we are not having a lengthy code, I will make the arrow function here itself, and let us call the updater function setCount. And to this setCount, just pass count plus 1. Similarly, for the second button also just give the on click event and again pass one arrow function and call your updater function set number and pass number plus 1. Okay, so in this way I am giving the two buttons. Now let us check whether it works or not. So if I click on count, you can see the value of count is increasing. If I click on number, you can see that the number value is increasing. So this we have already studied. I have not taught you anything new, correct? So why I am, because now we are going to study a new concept which is called as use effect. If you look at the folder name, what is the folder name I have given? It is use effect. So what do you think? What is this use effect? Is it a function? Is it a method? What is it? What do you think? What is this use effect? Looking at its spelling, what do you feel? Yes, very good. It is a hook. Why? Because it is starting with the word use. We have already seen that every hook starts with the word use. So, yes, definitely it is the hook, and it is called as the use effect hook. Okay, so let me import it. So from where are you going to import use effect? You will be importing use effect hook from the same library, that is React. Now, why are we learning about this use effect hook? What is the purpose of learning this use effect hook? So now let us go back to our life cycle methods. Okay, if you remember, I had told you that among those all the life cycle methods, even though we cannot make use of them in the functional based component, but definitely we can achieve its behavior. So there were two such functions or two such life cycle methods of which we can achieve the behavior here. Okay, now let me see how much you remember. Okay, along with that, if you remember, I was always talking about something called as side effect. Okay, we were saying that side effect is not allowed here, side effect is not allowed there, but for two functions coding for side effect is allowed. So now let us discuss what exactly is this side effect. So, what is side effect? Side effect is nothing but whenever you are executing something in React which is out of scope of React. Okay, I repeat once again, listen to me carefully. Whenever you are executing something or whenever you are using something which is out of scope of React, so such concept or such things are called as the side effects. Now, what are the things which are out of scope of React or which React cannot do? So, for example, the side effects. One example I had already told you for side effects, that is your HTTP request. Okay, one is your HTTP request. Then next is fetching of data. Even fetching of data is out of scope of React, so that is why fetching data is also included in the side effects, in the list of side effects. So if you're using HTTP request, if you're using the if you are fetching the data, or else if you are using local storage, remember all these things come under the side effect. Okay, all these things are an example of side effect. So now why I'm talking about side effect is because we have come to the point for use effect. Okay, use effect. This is the hook. Okay, this is the hook, use effect. And for what it is used? It is used to make use of side effects, which means whenever you want to use any kind of side effect, like for example, now I want to fetch the data. So whenever I want to fetch the data, remember you should always fetch the data inside the use effect hook, because it is a side effect. Whenever you want to execute something which is a side effect of React, you should always execute it inside the use effect hook. So remember, use effect is used to make use of side effect. Now see, fetching of data definitely we will see. But before that, I want to show you the syntax of use effect as well as how the use effect works. Okay, here we will learn how to use and where to use, that we will see in the next example. Okay, so now what I will do is, let me write the syntax here for use effect. So the syntax for use effect is, it takes the first argument as a callback function, means you can pass an arrow function here, and the second argument, okay, we will talk about the second argument later. First let us try to use the use effect here. Okay, call the use effect hook, and inside this use effect hook you just have to pass the callback function or an arrow function. And what I will do is, let me just console here, use effect, use effect has been invoked in the sense has been called. Okay, so this is the log statement I have given. Now let us check, when does this use effect get invoked. Okay, now everybody observe. If I just inspect and if I refresh, can you all see for the first time use effect has got invoked? As soon as your component is rendered, the use effect will be invoked, which means what? When is the use effect getting invoked? After rendering of your component. So as soon as your component is rendered, means what? What is the meaning that as soon as my component is rendered means? Can I say as soon as my return statement is executed? Correct. So until and unless the return statement is executed, you cannot say that your component is rendered. Correct. So as soon as your component is rendered, after rendering of the component, use effect gets invoked. Okay, so this you have found out. This is the first conclusion. Now what will I do is, let me make a change in count. So if you observe, for every change that I'm making in this component, that many times use effect is getting invoked. Observe here, I have changed the value of count for 9 times. So even the use effect got invoked for 9 times. Next, if I make a change in number, so as I keep on changing the number, I have made a change for 10 times. So 10 plus 9, total 19 changes I have made in the component. So for 19 times your use effect gets invoked. Okay, means what can you conclude from this? Whenever you are using the use effect with one arrow function or with only the one argument, remember the use effect works for n number of times. First time when it will get invoked, as soon as your component renders, so that time for the first time use effect will get invoked. And after that, for every change that you make in the component, that many times your use effect is also getting invoked or also getting called. So understood till here the first case, when I only pass the callback function to the use effect. Okay, see, actually, use effect is used to make use of side effects. Currently, I'm not showing you any side effects. We will see. But first, you just understand how it is working. Once you understand how it is working, then we will include side effects inside the use effect. Okay, so this is the first case. Now, what I will do is the second argument that the use effect accepts, that argument is called as array of dependency. Okay, it is known as array of dependency. Now what is this array of dependency? Everyone knows what is an array, correct? So first what I will do is, here this is the first argument, that is callback function. Give a comma after that and give one arrow function, which is nothing but called as your array of dependency. Flow, that is what I told you. As soon as your component is rendered, then your use effect gets invoked. So when can you consider your component is rendered? After your return statement is executed. Completely it is shown on the web page. So as soon as your component renders, the use effect will get invoked. You will understand the flow much better when I explain you this second case. In the second case, what I have done, I have passed the array of dependency. Now, what is this array of dependency? Array of dependency means it is an array which will give you the value of dependency. Means you have to decide that this use effect should depend on what. Okay, you have to specify to this use effect that you want this use effect to execute depending on what. So currently what I will do, the first case. Okay, now here comes the, not first, actually first is what, without array of dependency. So the next case is use effect with empty array of dependency. Okay, so this is the empty array. Empty array of dependency means I'm not giving it any value of dependency, I'm just passing an empty array. Now you observe the difference. Okay, everybody please observe the difference. As soon as my component is rendered, the use effect has got invoked, which is fine, which we have already seen that when does the use effect get invoked? After your rendering of component. Now what I will do, I will try to increase the value of count. So now you observe, even though I am making a change in count, the use effect is not getting invoked. Similarly, now if again I make a change in number, still you can see that use effect is not getting invoked. Correct, in both the cases use effect not getting invoked. So when the use effect got invoked, use effect got invoked only once the component is rendered, and only once. Okay, here the use effect has got invoked after rendering of component and only once. So can you say me this function is behaving, or this behavior is like which function in your life cycle methods? First thing, it is going to allow you to cause side effect. Okay, I will tell you the behavior of this use effect. First thing is what? It is allowing you to cause side effect. Second behavior is what? It is getting invoked after rendering of component. And the third behavior is what? It is getting invoked only once. So these three behavior, in which method you had seen in your life cycle methods? Again, I will repeat you the behavior. First behavior is what? It is getting invoked after rendering of component, and second only once. Okay, only once it is getting invoked. And third thing, you can cause side effect inside this use effect hook. So tell me, it is behaving like which method in your life cycle? Okay, use effect with empty array of dependency acts like, okay, it acts like component did mount. I don't know if you remember or not. Component did mount. It is from which phase? Component did mount. It is from which phase? Yes, it is from the mounting phase. So now are you able to recall the behavior of component did mount? Was component did mount allowing you to cause side effect? Was it allowing you to cause side effect? Yes, it was allowing you to cause the side effect. So as that of the use effect. Use effect is also allowing to cause side effect. Next, this component did mount was getting invoked after the render method. Similarly, here the use effect is also getting invoked after rendering of your component. Third matching behavior is what? Component did mount was getting invoked only once, whereas use effect with empty array of dependency, I'm talking about this complete thing. Okay, you just don't say use effect. Use effect with empty array of dependency will act like component did mount because it is going to get invoked only once. So understood how we are achieving its behavior here with the help of use effect. We have still not used it for the actual side effect, but right now you just need to see the behavior of use effect. Have you understood till here how this is behaving like component did mounting? Okay, so next case comes again, one more case we have to see for the same thing, that is use effect. So use effect, call it, make an arrow function inside it. And what I will be doing is, let me just comment out the previous one and let me make a new use effect. Okay, and let me write here use effect is getting invoked. Okay, so this is my log statement. Now what I will do is, I am not going to pass an empty array now. Now what is my requirement? As many times the count value will change, that many times I want use effect to be invoked. Or else, as many times the number changes, that many times I want the use effect to be invoked. Which means what? Now my use effect is depending on something. Its execution should start depending on someone, correct? So that is why instead of giving the empty array of dependency, now I will be giving a value as count. So what does it mean? Anytime if there is a change in count, the use effect should be invoked. Okay, now let us check how it is working. So for the very first time, it will work the same. As soon as the component renders, use effect is getting invoked. Now what I will do, I will make a change in number. So you can observe, even though I'm making a change in number, the use effect does not get invoked. Why? Because the dependency value is count and it is not number. So that is why on change of number, there is no effect on the use effect. But similarly, if I make a change in count, So you can observe for every change made in count, the use effect is getting invoked for that many times. Understanding, which means I can say re-rendering, re-executing. Okay, so this is how your, okay, one more thing. Use effect with some value of dependency acts like which method in your life cycle? I will tell you the behavior. Okay, this use effect with some value of dependency. First of all, it is allowing you to cause side effect. Second behavior, after each re-rendering of component. Now, what is the meaning of each re-rendering? As many times you make changes, that many times your component gets rendered. So that is nothing but called as re-rendering. So for each re-render of your component, the use effect will get invoked. But depending on what? Depending on the value that you have passed as a dependency. Means after each re-render, use effect getting invoked. Same for one method in life cycle. Then third behavior is what? It is getting invoked more than once. Okay, and it is used for side effect. And one more thing, this is also getting invoked after rendering of component. So tell me all these three behaviors from which method it is taking, or it is behaving like which method? There was one more method that was allowing you to cause side effect. Which was that? See, out of all the life cycle methods that we have studied, there were only two methods which were allowing you to cause side effect. One is component did mount. Already we have written there. And what was the second? Yes, it was component did update. Correct. Component did update. Correct. Good. So this case, what case? Whenever you are using the use effect with some value of dependency, remember it is behaving like your component did update. So this is the way you should use the use effect, as well as this is the way your use effect is behaving, or this is the way your use effect gets invoked. If it is empty array, so it will get invoked only once, that is after rendering of your component. And if you pass some value to it, it will render n number of times. As many times you make changes, that many times it will get invoked based on the value of dependency. Suppose if you pass here number, instead of count, if you pass number, and now you observe first initially, as soon as your component renders, the use effect will get invoked. Now as I make a change in count, you can see that the use effect is not getting invoked now. Why? Because my dependency value is number. So that is why on change of count there is no effect on this hook. But as soon as I make a change in number, you can see the use effect is getting invoked. So this is how your use effect with empty array of dependency and with some value of dependency works. Okay, have you understood? If you have understood, please execute this part. Then we will move on to the fetching of data in React. Execute this. when state gets update, component re-renders, and then use effect with dependency will be executed again. See, depending on the value, if you're giving numbers, so it will get re-rendered only when it will get invoked only when number is changing. Okay, and if you are sending count, so it will only invoke whenever count is getting changed. Okay, whatever you are saying is right. Okay, but depending on the value that you have passed. And yes, one thing you have to make a note that whenever you make any change, okay, like if you remember the very initial classes, I had given you the example of Google Maps. So, what was happening as you make a change in location, the component was getting reloaded. So, what happens if you are trying to make any change in a particular component? Remember that component gets re-rendered, it gets reloaded, not your complete web page, only that particular component. So you can check for any component till now. You can go and check your counter app. You can give a console statement above your return statement. You can make a console statement and you check for each change that you're making. Every time you will see the console statement will be executed in your console window. Why? Because for every change you're making, the component gets reloaded for that many times. If I'm making change 5 times, component also gets re-rendered for 5 times. Okay, so that this is the way it works. Now suppose if I give your two dependencies, it is possible to give two dependencies also. You can give n number of dependencies. Now what will happen if I make a change in count? Will the use effect get invoked? Let us check for number count. I have given both the values. So if I make a change in count, you can see use effect getting invoked. And if I make a change in number, still the use effect is getting invoked. Why? Because I have passed both the values as a dependency to it. So every time you make a change in number or every time you make a change in count, that many times use effect will get invoked. And one is common in both. As soon as your component renders, use effect will get invoked. Okay, this is common for both the case. For the first time. Okay, but in case of empty array, it will be invoked only once. That's it. Is it done? Execution. There is some disturbance here. Let me just change my place. Okay, so shall we move ahead now? Let us move ahead to the fetching of data. I hope you have executed this. So what I will do is, inside the same, I will make a new component for suppose display users dot jsx. Okay, in the last component what we saw, how to use the use effect. Now where to use that we will see here. Okay, so let me make a component and let me just render it below this. Display users. Yes, and what we will be doing is we will try to fetch the data now. Okay, let us see how is fetching done in React. Okay, so let me give a heading as users. Now, as you have already said that you have already fetched the data in JavaScript using the fetch method. So, can you tell me, did you use then method or did you use async await or you used both? Hmm? You used then method, you used async await both. Yes, okay, fine, good, both. So, do you remember that when using then method, how many times did you use then method there? How many times you handled it? You handled that promise returned by fetch method. You might have used then method twice when you used async and await. So you might have used await twice. Okay, you just go and check after the class today. You might have used it twice, but when coming to React, remember fetching in React is going to be much more easier than JavaScript. Okay, it's going to be easy fetching data in Java in React than your JavaScript. Now why I'm saying like this, why I'm saying that fetching here is going to be easy, because we will not prefer using fetch method here. Okay, we won't be using fetch method. Then what we will use, we are going to use an external library which is known as Axios. Okay, we will be learning about the new library, that is Axios. Now, what is this Axios? Axios is nothing but an external library. If you want, you can search Axios. Okay, so what is this Axios? Axios is nothing but it is a promise based library. And what is the advantage? It is going to help you to make use of the HTTP request. Okay, then it supports the promises. Okay, it supports the promises, as well as one most important thing that you can notice is automatic transforms for JSON data. Now, I don't know if you remember that when you are fetching data in JavaScript with the help of fetch method, you were not getting the data directly. You had to convert it to JSON. Okay, there you had to convert it to the JSON format first and then you could use it. But when it comes to Axios, okay, when it comes to Axios, remember Axios is going to make your work much more easier. How? Because it will automatically convert your data to the JSON format. You don't need to convert it. Okay, so how to use it? First of all, you should copy and let us first install. Remember what is Axios? Axios is nothing but it is a promise based library which will be used to make use of HTTP request. Okay, now coming to HTTP request, do you know what are the HTTP request? Do you have idea regarding HTTP request? Yeah, okay, so you, do you know about get, post, put? Yes, API calling, correct. Get, post, put, and delete, the four common majorly used methods. Out of which method is used for fetching? or getting the data? If you want, yes, we will be using get method to fetch the data. So remember, if you see here, what is Axios providing you? Axios is providing you with the HTTP request. Okay, it is helping you to make HTTP request and all HTTP requests like get, post, put, post, and delete. Okay, but for now we are only fetching the data, right? So now we will be using only the get method. Remaining methods, that is post, put, and delete, those three methods also we are going to see, but we will see them in the CRUD operation. CRUD operation will be the last topic of our React. Okay, very soon we will be doing CRUD as well. So during CRUD, I will explain you regarding the put, post, and delete. For now, just remember that get method is used to fetch the data or to retrieve the data, or you can say to get the data from the server. So who is going to provide it to you? Axios will be providing. So first of all, what you should do is you have to install the Axios. So the command to install Axios is npm install Axios. So just give the command, don't disturb the first terminal, split your terminal and let the Axios get installed. I will be sharing you the command in broadcast. You can check it. Now, only installing is not done. You will have to use it. So, to use Axios, you have to import Axios from the Axios library. Okay, first of all, import it. Now, tell me one thing, fetching data. Okay, it is a side effect. It is the example of side effect. So, tell me inside what I need to fetch the data then. If it is a side effect, what I should use? Inside what I should fetch the data? Where do we make use of side effects? Yes, then Lakshmi, where do we make use of side effects? Inside what? Just now we have studied, right? What is used to cause side effect? What is used to make use of side effect? What topic we have learned right now? Come on, I have given you that in a comment as well. A highlighted comment. Yes, we want to do the API calling. Correct. For that, we are going to use Axios. Okay, why Axios? Because Axios is a promise based library which is going to allow you to make use of get method or all the HTTP methods. But just now we have seen, right, that whenever you are calling, yes, inside the use effect hook. Remember, use effect is used to make use of side effects. So, fetching the data is also one of these side effects. So, that is why you should use the fetching code inside the use effect hook. So, for that, what to do? First of all, import the use effect hook, and you know that whenever you're doing any declarations you should always do it above the return statement. So make use of an arrow function, a callback function. Now tell me that I will be fetching my data inside use effect. So I want to fetch my data only once, I don't want to fetch it again and again. So to make the data get fetched only once, I will have to invoke this use effect also only once. So how can I do that? How can I if invoke the use effect only once? How can we invoke it only once? By passing the second argument as empty array of dependency. Just now I have shown you that if you use the use effect, with empty array of dependency, it acts like component did mount. Means what? It will get invoked only once. Means the data will also be fetched only once. So that is why pass the argument, the second argument as empty array. Okay, now next what to do? Let us write the code for fetching. So first write axios dot get method, because axios is providing you with the get method. So you have to write it as axios dot get. And what does the get method take? Get method takes only one thing, that is the URL of your API or URL of your server from which you want to fetch the data. So we can take the example of our users API, this one. So what I will be doing is, let me just copy this URL and paste it in the get method in the form of a string. Remember, you should pass URL inside the get method in the form of string. And now, as Axios is a promise based library, so remember, this statement will return a promise. Okay, this axios dot get returns you with a promise. So if it is returning you with a promise, you need to handle it then, correct? So what I will do, let us handle with the help of then method. So then method again accepts one argument as a callback function. So inside this then method, let me just pass some parameter. Okay, let us just pass some parameter and let us just console and check what are we receiving. So what is passed to this response? Whatever this axios dot get will return, that particular thing will be passed as a response to this then method. And let us console and see what are we getting in response. Okay, so can you all see I'm getting an object as a response? And if I expand this, are you able to see the data fetched here? Can you see the array of objects here that which we wanted to fetch? The array of objects, are you able to see here? Look at all the key names here. You should have a look at all the key names and tell me, are you able to see the data here in the form of array of objects? And if yes, in which data? Sorry, in which key? I will refresh once again. This is the response that you have received from your API, from the URL that you have passed. So if I open this, if I expand this, are you able to see array of objects? Tell me that first. Are you able to see array of objects? Yes, this is nothing but your array of objects, correct? Which we wanted to fetch. If I expand this, can you see the same data I'm receiving? Mojumbo, Dfun. We have already used this data a lot of times. Okay, so yes, we are receiving our data, that is array of objects inside this object with the key name as data. Inside the data key name you have fetched it, correct? So what I will do is, instead of consoling response, I will console it as response dot data. So now if you check what do I have in response dot data, I am having the data which I wanted to fetch. But if you try to do the same thing with the help of fetch method, now are you able to recall you had to convert it there, correct? Until and unless you don't convert, you will not get the data. the data you will not be able to fetch. But in case of Axios, Axios is making your work very easier. No need of conversion. It is internally converting and giving you the data in the form of array of object or in the JSON format. So you don't have to worry. Just handle the promise once and you are getting the data. So now what I will do is I will store this data in a state variable. So for that I will have to make a state. So to make a state you should import useState hook, and then let us make a state. Okay, suppose I name it as users comma set users is equals to use state. Okay, and I am going to give initial value as empty array. Now why I am giving this initial value as empty array, I will tell you in some time. For now let it be empty array. So if I want to store this response dot data inside this users, what I should use to store something in this users? What will I have to use to update users? I have to use the updater function, that is set users. So just call set users here, and since the value of response dot data it's already an array, correct? So directly you pass response dot data here so that the complete data that you have fetched will be stored in the users variable. Now see here, whatever is you are receiving here in the form of array of objects, the same thing will be stored in your state variable. If you want, I will just console here the variable users. You will get to know. Okay, I will console users. Now you see everyone, before fetching of data, the value was empty array, that is the initial value. And after fetching of data, you can see that the data fetched has been stored in the same variable, that is state. See, line number 16, this is also line number 16. Initially it was empty, but after fetching of data, the data has been filled or the data has been stored in our state variable. So now tell me, if I want to display this data which is in the form of array of objects on UI, what how we should display, what we should use to display all the content at once? How do we display an array on UI? Array has several elements. So how do we display all of those elements on UI with the help of what? Yes, very good. With the help of map method. So since you are using map means you are using JavaScript, so you should open the expression and apply map method on users. Okay, and this map method takes an argument as an arrow function and just pass a parameter. Suppose I pass it as value, and let us return some data as usual. Now this you have already studied a lot of times. You can make use of fragment. Fragment takes a key, correct? It takes a prop as key. You can pass it as value dot id. Why? Because value will be having one object. So next I want to display the all the users names. So where is that name present? It is present in the login key. So now you check your output, you will get all the users names. Similarly, you can also display their images as well, which we have already done. Okay, which we have already done. If you want, I will also again show you. Give an image tag, and in place of source mention value dot avatar URL. Okay, so now you check, you will get all the users along with their images. Okay, so this is how you can fetch the data. Now coming to the point that why have I passed your empty array? If I remove this, if I give empty string, and now observe, can you see my screen went blank? Why? Because there is an error. What is the error? It says users.map is not a function. So as I've told you, when this use effect gets invoked, after rendering of your component, so first this will be rendered, whatever you are passing in the return statement, first it will be rendered and then the data will be fetched. So if initial value, if you're giving as an empty string, so will the map method be applied to empty string? Is it a string method? No, it is not a string method. So that is why initially you have to pass the value as empty array. Why? Because initially there is no data fetched, correct? So it will apply map method on empty array, which is okay, which will work. So initially you will only be getting users displayed on UI, and as soon as the component is completely rendered very quickly, okay, everything happens in a fraction of seconds. That is why it's not visible to your eyes. First, it is going to be empty below the users. And as soon as the data is fetched, again the users is updated, and that is why you are able to see the data fetched on UI. If you just refresh this, you can see a very slight delay. Users is not moving. Why? Because it is a constant text. But for Mojombo onwards, it is not present initially. Initially, below users, the users is blank. So it will apply on the empty array. So that is why you will get blank, and quickly use effect gets invoked, data is fetched, and then you are able to see the data on UI. See, can you see? A slight delay you can observe, which is because first your render method executes, your component is rendered, and after that data is fetched, and again you are getting the data displayed on UI. So that is why it is necessary to pass empty array as the initial value, so that there is no error in this part. Understood how to fetch the data using then method and Axios? Okay, please execute this, and don't forget to install the library, that is Axios. I've already shared you the command for Axios. Okay, come on, execute this. And let me know once you're done. Then Lakshmi, since this is a weekend batch and you have already missed out 2 weekends, I don't know how much you will be able to understand. If possible, please join the weekday batches. Then Lakshmi, if you're not a working student, then you can join weekday batch because you have already missed out The two important sessions. In one session, I have taken forms, control forms, which is very important. So I don't know how much you'll understand henceforth. And since this is a weekend batch, 1 day batch, so I also cannot revise a lot of things. Okay, so see if possible, join a weekday batch so that you cover up everything which you have already missed. Is it done? Okay, so now we will take one more example in which you can see how to fetch the data using async and await. Okay, the process is going to remain the same, like making use of use effect and all. It will be the same, but what will be the difference? Instead of making use of then method, we will be making use of async and await. Okay, so let me make a new component inside use effect. Let us make a new component as display product dot jsx. Make a component. Okay, and in place of this div, let me use empty fragments, and I will give one heading as products. Okay, so since I want to fetch the data now, so I will be needing Axios here, correct? So here also you need to import Axios installation, only once you can do for one project, and then just import the Axios from Axios. And since we are fetching the data, which is a side effect, so you should also import the use effect hook. Okay, so now let us use effect here. Call the use effect hook, and since I want to fetch the data only once, so that is why you should give the second argument as empty array of dependency, so that the use effect gets invoked only once. That is, your data should be fetched only once. So what I will be doing is, now tell me, if I write the complete code inside use effect, or else if I make a function outside. Suppose I make a function as get data, okay, and I write all my fetching code inside get data, and if I simply call it inside the use effect, is it one and the same? If I directly use Axios inside use effect, or if I use Axios inside a function and I'm calling that function inside the use effect, so tell me, is it one and the same? Can I say it is one and the same? Correct. Yes, it is one and the same. Like I had given you example, if you buy oranges, if you carry those oranges in your hand, or you put those oranges in a box and then if you carry it to your home, it is one and the same. So same thing what I will be doing is, let us use here the Axios functionality or the Axios code. So now, as I said, we will be using what? We will be using async and await. And we all know that Axios returns a promise. So for this function to return a promise, we should first prefix this function with the async keyword. Okay, just prefix it with async keyword so that the function is capable to return a promise. So then next what to do, let me make a variable as response, and I will assign here axios dot get method. Same thing, okay, the very similar thing what we had done here, we had used axios dot get, so here also I'm using axios.get. But what is the difference? I am just assigning it to a variable. And now along with this, let us pass URL. So let me pass the URL for products. Okay. Let us come back and pass the URL in the form of a string. Okay, so now what we will do, let us console the response and check what we will get in the response. Now function we have already called it in the use effect. Let us check. Okay, I need to render it, correct? So let me just comment this and let us render display product. Okay, now you observe here everyone. Can you see what I'm getting? Promise pending means what? This axios dot get. Okay, this axios dot get is returning you with a promise which will be stored in the response. But how I am getting promise? That promise is pending. Why is it pending? Because fetching of this data will take some time. I know, very less time, fraction of seconds, but still it will take some time, right? So before it is getting fetched, directly it comes to the log statement, and that is why it says pending. Promise is pending. So how to avoid this? How we can get the response? By giving a keyword that is await. Yes, the await keyword. You should use await keyword in front of axios.get so that your response variable waits. Okay, means what? You are asking the response variable to wait for some time until and unless this axios.get is returning something. So as soon as you use await keyword, the response waits for some time and then it moves on to the next line, and let us check now what you are getting. Can you see now? Okay, wait, I need to. Yes. Now, can you see? little time it's taking, fraction of seconds to fetch. Can you see I am getting the response? And it is also similar to the previous response that I was getting. Now tell me, are you able to see the data here in the form of array of objects? Yes, we are able to see the data, and inside which key it is present inside the data key. So if I expand data, you'll be able to see all the data which I wanted to fetch. Okay, so just by using once the await keyword, I'm able to fetch my data. But now the response is in this object inside the data key. So can I destructure this data key out of response? Yes, definitely. Previously what we did, we just accessed it directly as response.data. But now what I will do is I will destructure data key from where? From the response object. Okay, so now you observe here carefully. In your school days, you might have studied if A is equals to B and if B is equals to C. So can I say A is equals to C? According to the rule that you have studied in your school days. Correct. So same way you observe here now. Okay, everybody just observe. I am saying response is equals to axios dot get, as well as I am saying that destructured data is equals to response. So in both the statements, response is common. Okay, so that is why instead of writing the code in 3 lines, I can shorten the code by equating the destructured data to what? To axios dot get. Correct. Okay, instead of writing your code in 3 lines, you can make it in one single line. First, I had to write this so that you understand how we are fetching. Okay, so if response is equals to await axios dot get, and if destructured data is also equals to response, so that is why I can write the code for my fetching in one single line. Now if I just console here data, and now you check what do I get in data. Can you see I'm getting the array of objects, the JSON data which I wanted to fetch? Yes, we are successfully able to fetch the data using async and await in one single line. That is why I say that fetching data in React is very much easier. Okay, so now data has been fetched. Let us store it in state. So for that, call the use state hook. Make a state here for product, comma, set product is equals to use state. And then here also you should pass empty array. Why? Because we will be applying map method here. So before fetching of data, map method will be executed. So to avoid the errors, you should pass the initial value as empty array, and let us store this data in the product variable. So what to pass here? Inside set product, what I should pass? I need to pass the array of objects that I have fetched. Yes, so I have to pass data over here. Correct, very good. So then it is stored in state as well. So let us apply map method. Then let us apply map method on product. Call the map method. Pass an arrow function to this. Correct. Then pass an argument here. Sorry, a parameter here as value. And then you can return a fragment. To this fragment, you can introduce a key prop with the value as value.id, and you can just display the title of the products. Since I have used this API many times, that is why I know about its key names. Okay, that is why I'm able to easily display it, but you should go through the data, check the key name, and then you should display. So now if you see, can you see it waited for a fraction of seconds. Why? Because first the component renders, okay, and after that you get the data. Okay, so that is why initial value should be passed as empty array. So now if you see, I am able to get all my products title. So this way you have to fetch the data using async and await. Understood? Come on, execute this. Dhanlakshmi, are you able to understand? Hopefully. You should go through the code, whatever you have missed. I've already shared you all the codes. You should go through the code once. Not only code, you should go through the theory also. Theory as well as code. And then if you have any doubts, you can text me on QTalk. I guess leaving this Saturday, we will take more 2 Saturdays to complete React. Okay, so hopefully before Diwali we will complete. 2 to 3 Saturdays. More 2 to 3 Saturdays we will be needing. 3 Saturdays max. So that is why I said hopefully before Diwali we will complete. Maybe next Saturday is Dasra, so I don't know. I'm not sure about it. Let's see. If there is a holiday, that Saturday will be missed out. Okay, so don't worry. Just 2 to 3 Saturdays more we will need. In not including today's Saturday. Okay, leaving today's Saturday. I'm saying. Okay, to cover Redux, then I will be needing one more extra Saturday. Okay, so one more session will be expanded for it. Fine. Actually, Redux is a huge topic. It's a very huge topic. So I think you're talking about the Redux hook. Are you talking about the Redux hook? I don't know exactly what you want, but are you talking about Redux hook? Because as I said, Redux is huge. It is something different than React. Different in the sense related to React only, but a separate topic. Okay, I'll teach you about the hook, Redux hook. Okay, I'll be teaching you about the Redux hook. Okay, fine. Okay, fine, Abhishek. I got your point. Is this done? Is it completed? Okay, so now let us move on to the next concept, which is called as memoization. Okay, so what exactly is this memoization? We will discuss. But before that, let me make a new folder, memoization. Okay, and in this memoization folder, I'll be making a component as parentcom.jsx. Then I need title.jsx. Then I need count.jsx. Okay, now pay attention. I will give you enough time to code. Title is done, and one more I will need, that is buttoncom.jsx. Okay, so everyone pay attention here. Now I am having four components: parent com, title, count, and button com. So what I'm going to do is I am going to render this title component, count component, and the button component inside the parent com. That is why I have named it as parent com. So what I'll be doing is all the three remaining components, I'll be rendering them inside the parent com. But there it's going to be a pattern. Okay, we are going to follow a pattern, like in which way we should render all these components inside parent com. So for that, what I will be doing is, first of all, I am going to make two states. So for making the state, I will first import the useState hook, and then let us make a state for marks, comma, set marks, and let me give it the initial value as, suppose, 75. Similarly, I'll be making one more state, that is for percent, comma, set percent, and for this let me give the initial value as suppose 80. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, guys. This is Pushpa from announcement team. This is my voice is audible to you. Both of you are audible, guys. Okay, thank you. Because today I'm here to announce the requirements. I'm sharing my screen. This is development requirement. Please take a snap. Because for the first requirement, designation junior software developer, those are completed web technology, React.js, they can apply. And this is for BE, BTech, BS, BCA, ME, MTech, MS, MCA student. Those are passed out in 2022 to 2023. 2 years bond is there. Location Gurugram. That is our offline interview, guys. And for the second requirement, designation training, those are completed React.js, they can apply. This is for BE, BTech, MCA student. Those are passed out in 2024 only. Location Bangalore. That is our offline interview. And for the third requirement, designation full stack developer. Those are completed one project. They can apply. Communication skill is required. Qualification streams will be any. Those are passed out in 2022 to 2024. They are eligible. Location Bangalore. That is our offline interview, guys. And for this all requirement, there is a separate link. If you are eligible, you need to register yourself through this link only. I'm already shared this link in broadcast. Okay. And guys, if you're apply for the requirement, you need to wait for 1 week time to get the interview schedules. After 1 week, in case you are not getting any update, then you need to call to the HR and check for schedules. Once the interview scheduled, you should attend the interview without fail. Reasons for not attending interview will not be accepted, guys. Okay. I stop sharing. Case you have any doubts, any query, please let me know. Okay. Abhishek, you have any query? Okay, guys. This is the update. Thank you, guys. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, so what I have done is here I have made two states. One is for the marks and the second one is for percent. So what I'll be doing is I will be making your two buttons. Sorry, not two buttons. I will be rendering the first component, that is title component. Okay, so let us render the title component here. For that, you should first import the title component and then render here the title component. So we have rendered title here. Now to see the title component on UI, you should first render this parent comp inside your app.jsx. So just comment the previous one and let us render parent comp here. Okay, so if you see now the title component is getting displayed. Now I want to make some changes here in the title component. What I will be doing is, let me give your empty fragments and I will include here one heading as memoization. So this is the title of my component, that is memoization. Along with this, what I want to do is I want to give a console statement. So let me give a console statement as rendering the title component. Okay, so that we understand that the title component has been rendered. So if you now check, you will see that the title is memoization, as well as you'll be getting the console statement that rendering the title component. Okay, so in this way you have done with the first component, that is title. Now what is my next requirement? I want to display the marks as well as percent. Okay, that is I want to display 75 as well as I want to display 80, but with the help of count component, not directly. Okay, I have to display marks value and percent value both, but how? Not directly, with the help of count component. So how can I do it? How can I display this 75 and 80 with the help of count component? Can I send the marks and percent as a prop to the count component? Can I send them both as a prop to the count component? Yes, we can send, correct? Yes, we can send. So just import your count component here and you just have to render the count component twice. Okay, first first time I will be sending it for the marks, and second I will be sending it for the percent. So to send them both, you should pass a same key name. So let me pass a key name or a prop name as count, and to this let us pass the prop value, that is marks. Similarly, for the second component also, I will give a key name as count, and I will be sending it a value as percent. Okay, so both the things are happening with the help of same component, which means I am reusing the same component, but I'll be displaying two different things with the help of the same component. First I will be displaying marks, and second I will be displaying percent. Now along with this, I also want their text to be dynamic, means I want the way we are sending 75 and 80 as a value here. Similarly, I want to send the text as a value to these two components. So I will give a key name as text, and let me pass a text as marks. Similarly, I will be sending one more prop here as a text, and I will give it a value as percent, so that I can display marks as well as percent both with the help of one single prop, that is text. Okay, so you will understand when I will display. So till here I hope you have understood. I have sent both marks and percent, as well as I have sent their corresponding text as marks and percent. So only sending of the props is not enough. You also need to receive it. So to receive it, just pass a props parameter here, and then you console and check what do you receive in props. Okay, so can you see, for the first rendering of count component, I am receiving the marks as 75, and I am receiving for the second time as 80. Why? Because it is the value of percent. And simultaneously, I am also receiving their corresponding text values. So if I want to use this 75 and marks, if I want to use this 80 and percent, so what I will do? I will destructure, correct? So let me just destructure count comma text from where? From the props. Okay, so for this what I will be doing is, let me remove this. Okay, and let us give your one heading, and for this heading let us first display 75. So where is that 75 passed? It is passed in the count, so pass your count and the corresponding text. So what is the text? Marks, correct? So your marks will be printed. Similarly, percent value will be passed, that is 80, and the corresponding text percent will be displayed. So now can you check, with the help of one single component I have displayed both the things, that is 75 marks as well as 80%. Understood or not till here? If you feel I'm going fast, you can stop me and you can tell me to go a bit slow. Okay, why I'm going, like, why my speed is a bit fast than normal? Because this things is nothing new. Okay, we have already studied. We've already studied the props. We've already reused the same components for displaying different props. Okay, so same thing I am doing. The same count prop I have used for two different things. One is for marks and the other one is for percent. Okay, so till here I hope you have understood. Now what I will do is, I will comment the log statement for props because its work is done, and I want to give a log statement here as rendering count component. Now I want to be specific here. I want to see whether this component is rendering for marks or this component is rendering for percent. So how will I understand? Depending on which value, you will understand whether it is a marks or whether it is a percent. For which component? How will you identify this component is rendering for what? For marks or for percent? Can you identify with the help of the text value? If the text is marks, which means it is rendering for marks. If the text is percent, which means it is rendering for percent, correct? So what I want to do is I want to join this value from the text variable inside a string. So what do? We use something called as interpolation. In JavaScript, you might have studied interpolation. Now, I don't know what term you have named it, but we call it as interpolation. What is interpolation? Use dollar symbol and then use curly braces. Inside this, you should pass the variable name, that is text. Have you used this or not in JavaScript? Have you tried to join your string with a variable? Used, right? So this is also termed as interpolation. But now tell me, will this work? I am using dollar and curly brace. I am passing my variable name. No, it will not work. Why? What is missing? You don't have to use double quotes here. You cannot make use of double quotes. You should make single quotes. Not single quotes, sorry, backticks. Okay, you will have to make use of backticks. Until and unless you use backticks, remember your interpolation does not work. As soon as I used backticks, you can notice the change in color for this dollar symbol. Okay, now let us check. Can you all see, for the first time it is showing rendering count component marks, and for the next it is showing rendering count component for percent. So have you understood how we are able to identify now that for which value the component is getting rendered? Okay, so I hope you have understood till here. Now what I want to do is, only this much is not enough for me. Okay, only these three things is not enough. I also want to give a functionality to make the increase in marks value or to make the increase in percent value. So for that, what I will do, I will be needing a button, correct? And again, the way I have displayed the marks and percent with the help of count component, similarly I will be using a button, but through the button component. What I'll be doing is I will be making a button here inside the button and this button I will be using through this component inside my parent comp.jsx. So first what I have to do is I will have to import button comp, and just below this marks I will render the button comp here. I will render the button comp in the form of opening and closing tag. Similarly, I want one more button for percent, right? So again, I will be passing it in the form of opening and closing tag. So what I will be doing is, here I will write a text as increase marks, and inside this, inside the opening and closing tag of the second button comp, I will write a text as increase percent. Now try to recall and tell me that if I pass something in between the opening and closing tag of a component, what will this be considered as? If you are passing something inside the opening and closing tag of a component, what it will be considered as? Yes, but how will you be able to use that content? With the help of an inbuilt prop. What is that inbuilt prop? As soon as you pass something inside the opening and closing tag of a component, you get an inbuilt prop. What is that inbuilt prop called as? Yes, very good. There is an inbuilt prop called as children. So you will easily be able to access it with the help of children. So what we will do is we will go to the button comp, we will pass the parameter here, that is props, and then you can console and check what are you receiving in the props. So can you see what I am receiving? In the first rendering I am receiving increase marks, whereas in the second rendering I am receiving increase percent. So can I use them on the button to display the text on button? Yes, I can use. So what we will be doing is, let us simply destructure children children key from where? From props, correct? And then just display the children on this button. That's it. Now if you see, I will be getting the button component. For first one, I am getting it as increase marks, and for the second one, I am getting it as increase percent. So this is what I wanted, which I have received. But again, if I am giving the buttons, so obviously functionality should also be given. But here now, what is the thing? Same button, but two different functions. So how will you pass? Obviously you will be passing it inside the on click event, but there are two different functions, right? One function will be for marks and one function will be for percent. So let us see how to pass it. Okay, it's very easy. What we will do is, let us first write the function for increase marks is equals to one arrow function I will give. And to change the value of marks, you should use set marks and just increase the marks by 1. Similarly, I will be making one more function as increase percent, and to this function you just have to call an updater function, that is set percent, and then you can pass percent plus 1. Okay, so both increase marks is done, increase percent is done. So the way I have sent the marks value and percent value as a prop, similarly I'll be passing these functions as a prop. So what I will do is, let me give a key name as func shortcut. Okay, and let me pass the function name, that is increase marks, and to this second one I will pass it as increase percent. So sending of props is done. Just go to your component, check whether you have received. Yes, you have received for both. In the first, you have received for increasing marks, and in the second, you have received for increasing the percent. So what to do? Just destructure here along with children, and the destructured part you just have to use on click event and pass the function here. Now everyone, now you just observe here, if I increase marks you will see the marks will increase, and if I increase percent you can see the percent will increase. Even though both are using the same button, remember they are working independently because their functions are different, they are having a different function. Okay, so now what I will do is, similarly, I will just comment the props, because now I have understood what I have in props. And what I will do is, just like the previous one, I will write with the help of backticks, I will write rendering button comp for, and I will be displaying that for exactly for which component is this rendering. Sorry, for exactly for which marks, or whether for percent it is rendering. So how can I display what I should pass here? I should pass here children, because first I have increased marks, right? So it will say rendering button com for increase marks, and afterwards it will say rendering button com for increase percent. So now let us check the console statement. Can you see? Rendering button com for increase marks and rendering button com for increase percent. So this is the way we have rendered all the three components. So till here, have you understood whatever I have done? We have still not seen memoization. Okay, still I am yet to explain about memoization, but this is a setup which we have to do before learning memoization. Okay, so if you have understood, please execute this. Come on. And once you execute, let me know. Please let me know once you're done. I'm waiting. In title component, you just have to give a title and a console statement. The title component is without any state, it is without any props. Okay, so this one is very simple. Just give a heading and just give a log statement, that's it. Have you done with button comp also? Okay, do it. Make the button comp. Then Lakshmi, what about you? Are you executing or not? Why then Lakshmi, why you're not executing? Okay, doing. Okay. Then Lakshmi, how much is left out? Okay, pay attention here. Okay, fine, done, good. So, everyone, please pay attention here now. The purpose of making all these things, what is the purpose? We will see. Okay, so if you see all these five components, inside which component it is rendering? Inside the parent component, correct? So, as the parent component renders, all these five components render, and simultaneously, it is rendering sorry, it is executing the lock statement also, correct? So for the five components you can see five log statements. So now what I will do, this is acceptable. Why? Because when the component is rendered, obviously you will get the log statements as well. Now what I will be doing is I will clear this log statement. I am going to clear the console because I want to show you something. What? Now as I click on increase marks, so if I click on increase marks, in which components will you find the difference, or in which components you are making changes? One, you will be making change in the count component for marks, and the second one, you are making a change in the button comp. Change in the sense you are using it, right? Means you are re-rendering it. Similarly, you are making a change in marks, means what? You will be re-rendering the marks, correct? So now observe, as I click on increase marks, can you see all the five components got re-rendered? Once again I will show, I will clear the console statement. Now as I click on increase marks, you will see for increase marks all other five components are getting re-rendered, reloaded. Similarly, again I clear this. If I click on increase percent, which means I am increasing the button component for percent, and I'm increasing the value of percent. So actually I'm making change only in two things. But as I click on increase percent, you can see all the five components got re-rendered. Whereas if you see, there is no change in memoization. So memoization should not get rendered, but still it is getting rendered. There is no change in marks, but still it is getting rendered. Why? Because all of these are a part of parent component, and if you make a change in any of the things of parent component, obviously all other things is going to get rendered. So this is nothing but this is unnecessary re-rendering happening. Okay, don't you feel this is unnecessary re-rendering of component? So how do you stop this unnecessary re-rendering? You can stop this unnecessary re-rendering with a concept called as memoization. Okay, if you observe the folder name that we have given, the folder name is what? The folder name is memoization. So what is this memoization now? What exactly does the memoization mean? Memoization means it is a it is an optimization technique. Now what do you mean by optimizing, or what do you mean by optimization? What is optimize? I'm not asking you in technical terms, whatever you understand by optimization. Yes, very good. Performance improvement, exactly correct. Okay, you are exactly correct. What is the meaning of optimization? Optimizing means making something much more better than before. Or you can also say optimization means improving the performance of something, correct? So, same thing, what is happening here? Unnecessary re-rendering of component is happening as soon as we make changes, which might affect the speed of our application. Right now it is only a few components, that is why okay, but if you have n number of components and if such things happen, so that time it might affect the performance. So how do you increase the speed, or how do you improve its performance? With the help of a concept that is called as memoization. What is memoization? Memoization is nothing but it is an optimization technique. So let us study about some of these optimization techniques, which is going to help us to stop this unnecessary re-rendering of components. So first of all, what we will do, yes, one more thing. Memoization means what I told you. It is an optimization technique. So how will it help us to stop this re-rendering? There, what it will do, it will store the values in a cache. Cache or cache, whatever you say. What is the meaning of cache or cache memory? cache memory? What is the meaning of cache memory? Can I say it is like a temporary memory? Okay, can I say it's like a temporary memory? So, what does this optimization techniques do? These optimization techniques stop the re-rendering by storing it in a temporary memory. Now, how? Let us see. Okay, let us actually perform and see. So, the first optimization that we are going to study is the React.memo. Okay, the first optimization technique is what? React.memo. Now, what is this React.memo? Now, if you carefully listen to me, I am saying React.memo means, can I say memo is coming from the React library? From this React that I have written. Can I say it comes from React? Yes, it comes from React itself. So, what is this React.memo? React.memo is nothing but it is a higher order component. Now, I don't know if you remember higher order component or not. This React.memo, it's an inbuilt higher order component. You or me don't have to make it. Okay, it is already predefined component, but it is a higher order component. So this React.memo, this higher order component is going to help us for optimization of our components, for optimization of our application. So now can you recall and tell me where do we call higher order functions? Sorry, components. Where do we call these higher order components? Do we call it in the JSX? Do we call higher order component in JSX? Or where do we call it? Try to recall higher order component example. Team 1, Team 2, auction, increase bid. So where we had called this HOC, higher order component. Did we call in JSX? Remember, we call our higher order components in the export statement. If you're not able to recall, please recall it after the class. Open your second project code. You will find there we were calling HOC inside the export statement of that particular component. Same thing we'll be doing here. We will be calling react.memo here in the export statement. Call react.memo and pass this title component to this react.memo as an argument. Okay, as an argument you have to pass the title component. Similarly, go to your count component. Again call react.memo and you should pass the count component inside this inbuilt hook, sorry, inbuilt higher order component, that is react.memo. Similarly, HOC, that is higher order component, react.memo, and pass the component inside this. Now let us see what does this do to our components. How does it help in optimization? Okay. Now observe the output. Remember for what we have done? We have done it for button count, we have done it for count, and we have done it for title. For the three components, we have done it. Okay. So now observe for the first time all the five components getting rendered. So that is why they are corresponding console statements you can see. Now what I will do, I will clear the console and let us try to increase the marks. So I will click on increase marks. Now you tell me previously how many components were getting re-rendered on change of marks. How many components were getting re-rendered? Before using React.memo, tell me how many components were getting re-rendered. Come on, check your output. You have not yet used React.memo, right? Go and check how many components are getting re-rendered when you make some changes. Quickly answer. I want you to answer what was happening before React.memo. How many components were getting re rendered when you changed the marks or you changed the percent?